Hey everybody, it's Coach Simone. It's a beautiful day. Decided to bring some of my stuff outside and put myself through a little bit of a workout. Wanted to share it with you guys. Mainly I'm going to go through 3 specific movements. I know that everybody is very different on the kind of equipment that they have. It may be limited, they might have a lot. Some people might not have anything at all. So I wanted to focus on 3 different movements that you can do, whether it's body weight or you can incorporate some kind of equipment, whether it's a band or a set of dumbbells or some kind of weighted work. Before I get started, I did do a little bit of a warm-up. You know, it's so nice out. I live on a very quiet street, so I did a couple laps up and down my street just to get my heart rate up. I did some of our typical body weight movements as our warm-up, the squats, lunges, straight leg kicks, all those kinds of things. Pretty much our stationary warm-up. And now I'm going to go into the couple movements I'm going to work on today. You know, you can make a really great workout out of very simple movements. It just really depends on the kind of intensity that you're putting into it. So I'm going to say here that we're going to do about 5 to 6 sets of 10 to about 20 reps. Really depends on the kind of intensity that you're putting into it or the kind of equipment that you're incorporating. The movement I'm going to go over is the body weight squat. There's a lot of different ways you can do this to make it more intense. Body weight squat though, basic squat, we're going to have our feet about shoulder width apart. We're going to keep our chest up, core engaged, hips back, and we're going to just lower our bodies down, drive our hips forward on the way back up, and we're going to get about 10 to 15 of these. To make it a little more intense, I know some of us have some of these hip circle bands, some of us don't, but if you do, you can make it a little more intense by using the hip circle. Same starting position. The biggest thing with the hip circle is making sure that our knees are not buckling in, making sure that we're pushing our knees out into the band, hips are back, chest is up, and then driving forward. Also 15 to 20, 10 to 15, depending on intensity. The last variation to this exercise would be holding some weights if you have weights. If you don't have weights, you can hold anything weighted. We'll hold a water jug, hold something that you have inside. But you can hold the weights off to your side. I would like to hold them up closer here. I can leave the band on. I don't need to have the band, but this is just another variation to make it a little more intense. My second exercise is a good morning. This exercise might seem a little weird doing it without any kind of band or weight, but there are different ways of doing this. If you do not have any kind of band or weight, it is very simple to activate those hamstrings and do this exercise correctly, as long as you're staying nice and engaged. With this, if you're not using any equipment, feet are about shoulder width. Now a banded good morning we usually would do with the band behind our neck, feet stepping on the band, and then pushing the hips back, bringing the chest parallel. We are still going to do that same exact thing. This is just getting you comfortable engaging your muscles without having any kind of resistance. So here, we're starting with our shoulders, our feet shoulder width apart. We're pushing the hips back. We're keeping the hips up, but now we're bringing our chest nice and slow, parallel to our floor, our turf, whatever we're using. As I'm doing this, I'm pushing my hips back. I'm pushing into my heels, and I'm getting my hamstrings activated. And then I'm driving my hips forward. Nice and slow as I'm pushing my hips back, driving through the heels. You should feel those hamstrings activating. Other variation with the band. Same thing, but now pushing out into the band. It gives your body a little more action when you're activating those hamstrings. But you're pushing the hips back. I'm pushing out into my band. I'm bringing my chest parallel and then driving my hips forward. I'm getting that same activation I would if I was using weights or a band. And then the last variation would be with a band. There's 2 different ways using this. This is how, if you are a part of VarsityHouse, what we have done many times in class. Stepping on the band, having the band behind our necks, and now performing the motion of pushing the hips back, getting that good stretch through the hamstrings, firing our hips forward. The other variation is, I know some of you have bands like this with the handles. If you do, you can do the same thing. You're going to step on the band. You might want to grip a little lower. And now again, it is the same movement. All right, guys, my last movement for today It is a push-up, renegade row kind of variation depending on what kind of equipment you have, or if you're just using your body weight. You're gonna do that on the mat. I'm gonna start off with a body weight movement of this exercise that you will still benefit from. Basically, you are gonna start in a high plank position. Your shoulders and your wrists should be in a nice straight line. If you need to keep your feet a little wider, you can. This is Gia, everybody. And we're gonna do a shoulder tap. So you're gonna take your right hand, bring it to your left shoulder, bring your hand back down. Alternating. We're gonna get 10 to 20 per side. Biggest thing is focusing on not rotating your hips too much. Another variation, okay, again, if you also don't have weights, but you're not comfortable bringing your hands off of the ground, you're gonna do a modified push-up off of your knees. Keep your elbows locked in. Get a lot more tricep work that way. And again, 10 to 20 reps. Finally, the renegade row, what the exercise actually is. Grab some light weights, nothing too heavy. I have a set of 10s. I'm gonna widen out my stance, meaning my feet are gonna be off of my mat. I'm gonna do one push-up, row, row, push-up, row, row. And I'm going to do 10 probably per side. I can modify these two, do a push-up, row, row. All right, guys, so those were my 3 exercises today. It's a squat into a good morning, into some kind of push-up renegade row variation. And once again, I am doing 5 to 6 sets of 10 to 20 reps, depending on the kind of resistance I am currently using.